What's going on, guys? Nico here, and welcome to today's lesson where I'm going to be covering chord mastery in the DAW, also known as Digital Audio Workstation. And I'm going to be showing you guys how to be manipulating chords to make these chord progressions much more interesting. So we're going to first start off with a basic chord progression that I'm going to play. And then from there, I'm going to show you guys how to take this basic chord progression and make it much more unique, make it awesome, and make it your own. So I'm just gonna play a simple chord progression in the key of A minor. I'll go at 120 beats per minute. I'll put I don't need the metronome. I'm just gonna record some chords and then I'll mess around with it. So here we go. So very simple chord progression. Let me turn off this metronome and let me take off low latency mode, turn this off. And I'm gonna just take this here. I'm gonna quantize these. Okay, wow, that was really loud. Lower my limiter here. Okay. Second, just quantize this to the grid. Okay, so I have my chords here, and I'm going to actually get rid of the sustain for now. Actually, you know what? Let me just keep the sustain. I'm going to edit this thing, though, because it's not in line. Here we go. Edits. Okay, and let's highlight this thing. Do that up. So I'm going to make these all the same length. Right there, I'm using some shortcuts in Logic. All right, so the first thing I'm going to be going over is inversions. So we have all the roots of our notes here. We have an A, we have an F, we have a C, and then we have a G. And something I want to mention is that this is an A minor chord, an F major chord, C major chord, and G major chord. That is our chord progression. And what I'm going to be doing is something that I can do similarly on the piano, but I'm actually going to jump all these up, jump the thirds in these chords up an octave. So it's going to be like this. And now listen, I'm actually going to just kill this because it's annoying. So right here, I'm just using a more open chord structure because before we had this was in a block form. Like if you have an A minor chord, there's no notes in between. So this is a closed chord structure. I call it a block chord. And then if I take this C and I jump it up an octave, you know, if we have an A minor chord, there should be a C here. There should be an A here. There should be, you know, these notes are missing. So it's now an open chord, and this sounds much more open, much more unique. And then we can jump the rest of these up an octave. So now I just made these all from block chords to open chords. So now I'm going to go through and show you the next iteration upon this. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start inverting these chords. So I'm going to take the root and I'm going to jump it up an octave. I'm going to take this F chord, for example, here. Take that, jump it up an octave, and listen to this now. So when you take the root of a chord and jump it up an octave, you're now in first inversion, right? So if I want to go to second inversion on this F, I just take this root here, I jump it up an octave, and now we go. Right? So that's the second inversion. We jump this back down an octave, back down. We're back to our other chord progression. So I'm just going to mess around here and do some unique stuff to this. I'm also going to jump this up an octave. Let's invert this one. Let's invert this one. So if we add a rhythmic pattern, let's get this back to how we had it before. So here we go. Down. Okay, so we did the inversions. Now I want to add some rhythmic pattern to this. So we're going to go here. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. I do not like that. Try this one. I like the swing of this one. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm going to copy this chord progression now, and I will break this down. So here we go, new chord progression with the rhythm. So I showed you guys inversions, and now we're going to go into a little bit rhythmic patterns and how we can then mess around with these to make it much more interesting. So here we go. Okay, great. And now what I want to do is I want to start messing around with inversions and changing up the top notes. So now that we broke these chords out, you can feel free to bounce around a bit here. So maybe we have this A here, and we're playing an A minor chord. So why don't we take this and jump this up to an A? So okay, so what I'm doing now is I know the chord is F or A for this A minor chord, A, E, and C. So I'm just using notes in the chord, and I'm ignoring the fifth here that used to be here. I'm just not having a G or an E. I'm just ignoring it, and I'm going through this now, and I'm messing around with how can I create like almost a unique melody line on top of these chords and make it a chord itself. So, and then we get to this point where there's a D, and you're like, well, there's no D in an A minor chord, right? However, we've just created an A sus4 chord right here, and this is actually considered a passing tone because it's not in the key, in the chord of A minor. However, it is a note in the key of A minor, which is what we're in right now. So I can throw that in there, and then over here we have the F. So we have an F major chord, then we have FAC. We jump back and forth, and then we go up here to an F, A, and G. Which, if you think about it, the G is this, if we think of it as a number, F is number 1, and we have our piano here, G is number 2, A is number 3, B is number 4, and then C is number 5. So what we're actually doing here, we have like almost a clustered chord together, and there could be a C on here. However, what we're doing is we're taking this and we're jumping it up an octave. And then we're just, playing F, A, and having an A octave. So let's listen to this now. just did here, and let me explain because I wasn't really talking that much. I was making a chord progression and making it a bit more unique, knowing what I know in the scale. If we look at the key of A minor, we start off and this keyboard repeats. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G, and then A. So what I'm doing here is basically playing around. I lay out the chords, and then this top note, I have like the first and the third, so we know it's a minor chord. And then I'm just playing around with this top note. I'm moving it up around and using different notes that I know are in the scale, and that's how I'm creating a unique melody line. So sometimes I will be using, in the chord, there's an A, C, and E, so I'll be like, okay, I can put a C up here, or an A up here, or an E here, and then maybe I jump this up to a C. Oops. So, and what I'm doing here, I'm taking the chord and I'm creating a bunch of different mini chords inside the ultimate chord, which makes a unique melody line move because we have so much going on now. And again, I throw in the kick start here just so you guys can think of your dance music producers like we have a kick. Anyway, let's get back to the basics. I was just showing you that as a quick aside so you guys know that you can be moving these top notes up around a little bit. And what I'm going to show you now is so we're back here. So now I want to show you guys using the scale that we're in. We have an A minor chord, so the A is the 1, the C is the 3, and the E is the 5, because we have our scale for this individual chord. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a B. Whoops. A B. So that sounds a little bit dissonant, but what I'm doing is I'm adding the second in here. So if I were to actually get rid of this note or mute it, it'd be an A sus2 chord. But what we can do instead is we can jump this up an octave. I don't like that. Let's jump the C up an octave. So I like this better. This is an A sus4 chord. So we have A, B, C, D, E. And then we bring the D up an octave maybe. And then maybe we just add another D here. So now we've just created a unique chord. And all I did was I'm using the suspension chords. I tried with the A sus2, the A minor sus2. It sounded too dreary. I didn't really like the sound of even moving this up an octave. I didn't like that too much, so I was like, what other sus chord can I use? And I went up to the A sus4 chord. And then I jumped, maybe you jump this up an octave, maybe you jump this up an octave and this up an octave. Nope. And that sounded good. So let's think of what other sus chords we can do. Here, maybe we can add a G. So we have like, if we get rid of this A, it's a F major sus2 chord. So let's jump that up an octave, bring this back. And while I may be going fast here, guys, I want you to be watching my workflow and seeing what I'm doing. I'm doing tons of experimentation. I'm taking the C, I'm jumping it up an octave, down an octave. I am manipulating the basic chord and doing a bunch of different things with it. Like you saw earlier, I took it and I inverted it. I took a rhythmic pattern and then I created almost a melody on top of it. That's what we need to be doing here. as producers, we have to be creative. We have to be thinking at the next level. So what I did there, and let me jump back to what happened. So I brought this down an octave. I brought the whole thing down an octave, and it didn't sound good. It sounded like shit because, excuse my language, I had to say it. I try to hold back in these, but sometimes you just gotta let loose. And look, it sounds too congested down here. The bass frequencies are all colliding. It sounded not good. So I moved this up an octave, and now it sounded dope. So this chord right here, maybe we move this down an octave and we take this. That sounds pretty cool. Let's move this up an octave too. See, and we're playing around here. Okay, we have a C major chord next. What are we gonna do? Let's add a 7th to it. Why not? And let's... No. I'll live with it. I'm not a massive fan, but we'll play around. I'm going to bring this down. We have a G major chord here. Let's make it a sus4 chord. So we have G, A, B, C, and D. Take this up to C. Jump that up an octave. Let's take this. So all I'm doing here, guys, again, it's not that difficult. I'm figuring out the sus2, sus4 chord of whatever chord I'm playing. Like the A minor sus2 didn't sound good. I moved to an A minor sus4. I tried a 6 chord. And now what I can do with this is, okay, I have something pretty cool here. I have a unique 4 chord progression that I took from that original chord and made it unique. So now if I want to mess around with some different type of melody, let's see. Dun, 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 dun. I like this thing right here. Let me try to do something unique. Okay, we copy that. I'll edit it one time. I don't like this right here. I'm going to jump this up an octave. We're in C major chord. So here we go. All right, so you want to get really intense with this type of stuff and make something really cool. Here's what you can do. This is something that's non-related to the chords, but hopefully you guys are learning as I go through this. I want to automate the panning on those hits. Da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun. So smart controls, main, pan. Okay. I have no idea how this is going to sound. I'm just trying it out. Yeah, that movement's pretty cool, actually. Let's make it a little more extreme. Trying to highlight this. Yeah, if I can copy that and whoops. I like that. Okay, so let me copy this here and then do that right there again. Time here. All right, so that's how we just made some dope stuff right here. And this is, again, now if you want to take it a step further, what you can do is you can mess around and just randomize. So I'm going to make these louder as they go, mess around with these different chords. And again, this is the complex stuff that brings you to the next level. And maybe we start loud here and then go soft on the next one. Okay. All right, so now that we covered some more interesting chords, what I want to keep doing here is adding some more stuff to this. So we're in the key of A minor, so I can basically arpeggiate a C, a C, G, C, and this is a power octave chord. Again, we're still in chord mastery, so we won't get into the intervals too much, but I will cover this in the next section. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to record... Okay, 1 second. Let me put low latency mode. Okay, we go here. Sleep on. Okay, great. So I have this cool chord progression going. Let me actually just fill out these to make it a bit more. Okay, real quick. So our first chord's in A minor, so I'm going to jump this down to a... So this CGC is going to work well because we're in the key of basically A minor, or if it depends on how you want to look at it, C major. It's the same notes here. So what I'm doing is I'm just arping this out. I'm messing around with the melody as I go, and I'm just listening to it. All right, so what we can do now with this is we can send it to some ping pong delay. Okay. This crappy same thing is. So what we can do actually, what I want to do is I want to keep these bass notes consistent. Just because I want that bass to be bumping. So here we go. Da-na. So you can see you just use some panning and you throw some other stuff in there and you can get a pretty cool sound. Again, it all started with a basic chord progression and knowing some of the improvisational tactics that I can use on the piano, as well as understanding inversions, understanding the suspension chords. We can create something cool like this. Let's see. How long have I been going for? All right, it's almost been 30 minutes. Let's just do a little bit more, because why not? Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to say goodbye to all this beautiful stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys something. Okay, so there are 7 notes in every single music family. Some people call them keys. I call them music families. It depends on who you're talking to. Let me just spread these out real quick. Make them all half notes. Okay, so we start off with an A minor chord. If we're assuming the key of A minor, which is the same thing as C major, legit all I have to do is, start this off and drag these 4 chords, or sorry, go here. Okay, it's being weird. Like, notice the notes are the same right here. Okay. Let me get rid of this panning effect. Okay. All right, whatever. Doesn't matter for what we're doing. So there are only, technically there's more chords that you can use, but there are truly only 7 chords if you use the notes in your key to make chords. It starts a C major chord. And understand this, if you're starting off in a major scale, major chord, minor chord, minor chord, major chord, major chord, minor chord, diminished. So what we can do when we're creating chord progressions is we can look literally at these 7 chords and be like, which one do I want to go with today? So, okay, let's start off with this 4th chord. I want to start off with that. So I'll plug that in here. I'll make it might as well make it the full thing. I'm thinking a minor chord next. Let's try an E minor. I'm feeling, maybe a little bit more of minor mood. So let's throw in another E minor. Let's do D minor, and let's go to C. Why don't we just go down the scale? Let's hear this. Not a massive fan of this one. I think we can get rid of this E and instead put in the A. Let's try that. Oh, I guess we put in the G. Let's just make this an A minor chord. So I like that da-da. And then G, I think G would sound good here. And again, this is what you guys can do in order to practice this stuff. You have these 7 chords, and we're just going to play it in the key of A minor and C major. And let's just play with this chord progression. Here we go. And then maybe try a D. D. Make it the full thing here. So here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Let's try that. Now I'm gonna do rhythmic pattern. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go in here. A little unique. Okay. Yeah, whatever. All right, we can just use this chord progression for example. All right, so what I'm doing is it's a rhythmic thing and it's also an inversion thing. I took this chord progression and I said, let me figure out how I can make this chord progression a bit more unique and just keep the same chord here without having to, per bar, there's a different chord. But when you invert stuff, it almost sounds like you have 2 chords in one. Now listen to this again. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see if we can figure out a cool one to go with here. Dun, dun, dun. So we'll send this top note down. Let's listen through. Dun, dun, dun. So you can see what we can do here. We chop up the chord and we keep the same chord in here, but we just invert the last part of it. So that's going to conclude part of chord mastery. Now that you can use sus chords, you can use inverted chords, you can literally lay out all the chords here and design your own chord progression or use MIDI packs. These are all the tools you guys can be using to make much more interesting sounding chord progressions. And again, now you have piano knowledge, assuming you've taken the piano, the Modern Piano Masterclass for the producers. This is going to help you tremendously. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and keep up the good work. Practice these ones, guys, and they will help you in the future.